So I guess let's wander into family stuff, I guess, a little bit here. Is that okay?
Yes.
So you and Rosemary have 5 children, is that right?
Yes.
And
3 boys,
3
2
boys,
girls.
2 girls. And I guess if we move into the 92 or so.
Yes.
And maybe set the scene, I guess, because there must have been something that was brewing that you were aware of as a parent, I guess.
Yeah, it was devastating. I was getting ready, it was a Saturday, to go out of town, go to Atlanta for some story on a bank scandal involving Iraq or something like that. And the phone rings, it's night, I'm about to leave, and there's this sobbing at the other end of the line, and finally it's my daughter Helen, and she shouted, "Dad, come home right away." So I said, "What's wrong?" And I could hear Rosemary in the background saying, "Don't tell him." And I kept insisting, and Helen said, "It's Kristin, she's dead. She's been shot and killed." So I got somebody to drive me home because I wasn't sure of my grip on the wheel, and found out what had happened. She was shot in the head by a young man who had been under court order to stay away from her. He should have been in jail because he had beaten up a previous girlfriend.
Right.
Kristin reported him for beating her up, and the probation officer gave him a pass, just assigned him to some psychologist he was supposed to see in a few days. And he had beaten up Kristin, and she had gotten a restraining order against him. And then he saw her on the street, Commonwealth Avenue, I think, in
Boston,
Cambridge. And I think he asked her to go out with him. I think she told him to get lost. She turned around to leave, and he shot her in the back of the head. Shot her again. I think he shot 3 times, but the coroner said twice. And killed her instantly. Then he went back to his apartment and killed himself. And so I was determined to find out, well, more about this. Why was he there? What happened? And so I went up to Boston and spent weeks looking into Kristin's murder and looking into the background of the guy who killed her. And so I was in courthouses all over the state because he had a record as long as your arm, a couple of pages, criminal record.
Now, had she dated him a little, or
yes,
yeah,
for a few weeks.
For a few weeks, and
but
then
he had a bad temper, and one night they're coming back from some lounge, and he knocks her down, starts kicking her. She has a portrait that I saw of what she looked like, after the beating, a big bruise on her upper thigh. Helen has it in her house. She painted that, and determined to stay away from him, and he kept calling and ringing dozens of times a day. And so she got a restraining order, but that he violated that and was not able to stay away from her.
And as a parent, were you aware this was happening at the time? I mean, did you?
No. I knew she had been dating a young man for a while and broke it off, and I thought, well, that's the end of that.
Right.
I didn't know about the restraining order. Helen did, my oldest daughter.
I see.
But Kristin told her on strictly confidential grounds, don't tell Dad. So I didn't know.
Wow. And what exactly happens with you? Do you get assigned to this, or do you take a leave? How do you?
No, the Post was generous about that. They let me assign myself to it in a way, and
Wow,
paid for my way to Boston, and
that's really great.
you know, the hotel stays there and things like that. And so I spent weeks looking into the background of the young man who killed her, Michael Cartier. And he had a very unhappy life. His parents split up when he was just very young, and his mother abandoned him to an orphanage when he was 5 or 6. He was, I guess, uncontrollable. He tore a pet rabbit's legs out of its sockets when he was very young, I think around 6. And he had a hard time in the orphanage. And when he got out, he got into trouble with various burglary attempts and disorderlies, things like that. And before he met Kristin, he met another girl, Rose Ryan, and he beat her up. Got sentenced to a year, but sent to Deer Island, a terrible place for prisoners in Boston, and then got out with 6 months suspended, hanging over his head if he got in trouble again. Well, he did. Got in trouble again. Nothing happened to him. He should have been back in jail the day he killed my daughter.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I found out, for example, very much about the shortcomings of the criminal justice system. I'd covered trials for years, but they were all big trials, you know,
Right.
with a lot of attention focused on them. I never paid that much attention to the lesser crimes that go
Right.
poorly prosecuted, poorly investigated, and largely ignored. I got a new appreciation of that by delving into what happened to Kristin. And over the years, after writing about what happened for the Post, I expanded that into a book called The Stalking of Kristin, and gave a lot of lectures around the country on the shortcomings, the failures of the criminal justice system in dealing with domestic violence.
Wow. And what I was wondering about is when I read your Outlook piece the day it appeared, and I remember it very clearly, I came away with well, it practically grabs you by the throat when you read it, and but it also does show the problems of the criminal justice system, but it particularly, to me at least, pointed up the problems in particular with restraining orders.
Yeah.
Because people, the people bringing the orders keep bringing them, and very little happens. And
Yes.
it seems to be, you can see the limitations of the system. The system doesn't know what to do with people like this fellow Cartier. I mean,
Well, it could if
Right.
it just paid attention to the violations.
right, right.
And in the years since Kristin was killed, the laws have been improved so that in some states, at least, I think violation of a restraining order is a crime, and it will get you, well, it's a crime anyway, but it will get you some jail time, or is supposed to on paper.
Right, right.
But it's still the case where police, prosecutors, judges wink at it. You know, Book of Proverbs says winking at a fault causes evil.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of winking done at violence against women.
Yeah, that's
Too
right.
much.
Did the Violence Against Women Act, which passed in the late 90s, was it late 90s? I think it was.
No, it was,
Or was it
94.
94.
And there was a provision in there to deal with some of the problems that Kristin's case illustrated. it allowed judges to delve into the background and records of perpetrators of domestic violence in a way that had not been allowed before.
That's great.
And Joe Biden, who
Then Senator Biden.
yes, right, was a main sponsor of that.
Right.
And we grew close over the years. He and Hatch were primary authors, as I recall, at least on the Senate side, of the Violence Against Women Act. And Kristin's death helped fuel that passage, I think. Biden and Hatch have been trying for years to get it across. And it became, I think, the part of the Crime Act of 1994.
Wow.
But at a federal level, it made it a crime, for example, to cross state lines to commit domestic violence. But it's very poorly enforced.